name is Gabe Zolna. Fox News just announced something that I thought was rather interesting, and I think it's worth discussing. And that is apparently 8 council members in Troy, Michigan have been indicted. 4 have already pleaded guilty, and what they've pleaded guilty on is voter fraud. And the way they did that in Troy, Michigan is the way they've done it throughout the United States and pretty much all your key swing states. And what they did is they falsified absentee votes in favor of their Democratic representative, be it a senator, a councilman, or, in this case, Obama. And the easiest way to do that is the way I did discuss and explain in a video that I did previously for Congressman Allen West in Florida. There was one little trailer park area that had 7 registered voters, and that little area produced 900 votes. Now, if you extrapolate that across the United States, you can see how easy it is to have an awful lot of votes that shouldn't have been counted, that were counted. What's also amazing is that in 2008, Obama received 10 million more votes than he did in 2012. And what's even more amazing is that Governor Romney received less votes than did Senator McCain in 2008. None of that makes any sense. But the way this voter fraud is committed is rather easy. The Chicago machinery had their people on the ground for the last 4 years in key swing states. And what they would do is they would get a hold of the voter roll. And then they would request absentee ballots. And then they would monitor the mail. And that's rather interesting as well, monitoring your mail and taking the mail. That's like a federal charge. But they would monitor the mail. They would take the absentee ballots out of the mail. And then they would select their senator, their congressman, and their president. And then they would submit those to be counted in favor of their selected candidate. And then what they would be betting on is that, let's assume they do this 1 million times. Well, 1 million times isn't a whole lot over a 4-year period, but let's assume they do it 1 million times. 500,000 people aren't even going to bother to vote. So they're not going to know that they voted, since they have no way of knowing. Now, the other half of the people might find out. And how they find out is the way they found it out in I believe it was in Ohio. A number of people in one of the districts in Ohio that Obama had 140% of the vote. What they found is that when they went to vote, they were told, no, you already voted. And they said, no, we didn't vote. No, actually, you did vote. You voted absentee. No, we didn't vote, and we want to vote for the candidate of our choice. So they were given a provisional ballot. Now, when I say they, I'm probably referring to half of those, because the other half would be just frustrated and they would leave and they wouldn't vote at all, because as far as they were concerned, the whole thing didn't make any sense, because they said they voted when they didn't vote, and they would just leave. Now, the ones that were given a provisional ballot, those don't get counted until 10 days after the election. So in other words, they don't get counted. And what's really disgusting, I think, is that our military folks, the military ballots that were sent, there was an airplane that crashed coming out of Afghanistan, and a lot of the votes were destroyed when that plane crashed. But that was 2 months before the election. They had ample time to reissue and to request new absentee ballots, but they never did. And they've also found boxes and boxes and boxes of military ballots that were never counted after the election. Now, if Obama really wants to be presidential, I think he's got to do a couple of things. The first thing he has to do is agree to have absentee ballots verified in key swing states. And that isn't an insurmountable challenge. And we also know that he's never going to release access to the birth certificate in Hawaii, because it doesn't exist. If it did exist, he would have done so a long time ago. He wouldn't have spent millions of dollars to try to hide it and bury it, as he did with burying his past from Occidental and Harvard. So what we really have is we have a president that we know nothing about. We have a president that was supposedly vetted by Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi. Now, the question that I would like a jury, while they're under oath, to ask them is, how could you have vetted Obama when you know nothing about him? And what's frightening is what we have learned about him is horrifying. That's horrifying. Anyway, I don't know if this will ever come to fruition, But I think that each and every ballot that was submitted absentee has to be verified and authenticated in the key swing states. And it might sound like a difficult challenge to achieve. The future of our country depends on it. If our votes don't matter and don't count, this is the last election that will ever take place in the United States. If Obama is allowed to remain in power, I fear that will happen as well. So, we have a choice. The people need to demand. The people need to demand by calling our congressmen and our senators and demanding that there's a recount and that each and every absentee ballot that was submitted in key swing states is verified. And it'll change the dynamics of the future of this country if that happens. Thanks.